How many are actually public so far? Because even just like a year or two ago, there was like none.
There's probably about a dozen, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. A lot of them are in Canada, just kind of like the pot stocks. But we are seeing consolidation in the space. Cybin, I believe, bought another company called Small Pharma, and they're working on a phase 3 study, which is huge. I mean, if that data is encouraging, I mean, that's going to be huge for the market.
Yeah, I mean, these are phase 3 too.
Yeah,
These aren't just
exactly.
phase 1. That's like phase 3 is human trials.
Yeah.
Right. All right, let's get started. This is the Angel Research Podcast. I'm here with Alex Boulen.
What's up?
Welcome to the show. We were just talking before this started about sports betting. I guess you're a big sports betting person.
Let's go O's, baby. Come on.
Yeah, so what's today? The 27th? 8th? 29th? 28th? So it's the 28th, and the Orioles need one win to clinch the American League East division and get the number 1 seed. So we'll both be watching tonight. Are you going to the game?
I am not going to the game, but I'm going to some postseason games.
You already got tickets?
Mm-hmm.
Were those hard to get?
A little bit, yeah. Had to buy them from a ticket holder, from like a season holder, but
yeah.
Yeah.
So we were talking about betting on the sports, and you use FanDuel, right?
I use DraftKings.
No, you use DraftKings. DraftKings is public.
Yes.
FanDuel is not, I guess.
Yep.
Muno was saying out there. You can chime in on this, Muno, if you want. Yeah. So I'm pretty bullish on sports betting as a whole.
I am as well.
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily good for society in general, but
right.
it seems to be this massive. It's everywhere now.
Yeah. So before, you had to go to Vegas.
Yeah.
To bet.
Now you just need an app.
Need an app. You can still go to the casino. My first experience with sports betting was the Phil Mickelson Tiger Woods match and they were in Vegas, but I went to a casino in Delaware when it was legal, and unfortunately the machine me and my friend placed our bets, and the machines didn't take our bet, so at the end of the night we couldn't cash them out.
It just never took the bet.
It never took it.
But
yeah.
you would have won.
Well,
who did you bet on?
I actually would have lost.
Oh, so you lucked out.
I bet on Tiger.
You bet on Tiger.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's huge. It seems to only be growing. I personally don't really partake in anything other than fantasy football, but I know it's just everywhere now. The leagues are integrating it, so I don't know if there's a lot of huge plays surrounding that, but there is some it's all about the regulatory stuff, right? I think in Maryland it's legal. Vegas, I think maybe half the states, but if you download the app and then you go to a state where it's not legal, it won't work, right?
I believe so.
Uh-huh.
I think even if you're a resident of that state, where it is legal, it won't work in another state.
They geolocate you
I
see.
believe so.
Yeah, I heard about that. They just kind of know, which is insane. So anyway, didn't really want to go into that topic, but what we definitely wanted to talk about too is gold at your grocery store. What's up with that?
At your local Costco.
I'm a Costco member. I got the Costco membership.
You gotta get online when they post these new gold bars from their Pamp Suisse Lady Fortuna Veriskin bars. Probably not saying that right. One ounce gold bars.
So 1 ounce. I mean, that's a big,
Yeah, it's a big purchase for a lot of people. But they're actually selling it for just above spot price.
Okay.
So spot price, gold's actually dropped today. It's down around 8,500.
1,800.
Sorry.
Yeah.
1,800.
No, I know what you meant. What you meant.
My bad. But yeah, so they're selling them around like $1,950, something like that. If you go to your local, coin shop, you're going to be paying well over $2,000 for an ounce. So they're selling out within hours.
Really?
Oh yeah. Limit 2 per customer. Yeah.
Is this some sort of new market they're trying to get? Is this like a PR ploy, or is this just a sign of the times? Like,
that's a good question, because I feel like it could be a sign of the times. They're just kind of banking on that fear that's going on right now in the markets. And they're thinking,
and just prepping for it.
Yeah, they're thinking, hey, why don't we get some gold and then sell it to our customers?
No, it's just gold though.
It's just gold,
not silver. Not.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I mean, the gold. It's crazy because the last time gold topped out, so to speak, around 2000, 2100, the big, the ultimate sign that it was sort of a top in the market was the pawn shops, the big cash for gold. Like you would go to your local mall, you would see cash for gold signs, and of course, they also are people sort of capitalizing on the fact that people don't really know the actual cost of gold, and so you can give them something like a piece of gold jewelry that is kind of worth a decent amount, but they'll give you like peanuts for it compared to what the actual gold value of it is worth. And when people are when consumers are squeezing thin, they are they're more than willing to part with something that they have in order to get cash in hand. Of course, that was the ultimate top, because then after that it fell. So do we think this is a sign of another top here, or just them? Because they're not buying gold from customers; they're actually just selling it.
Yeah. My opinion is that it's always a good thing to have gold.
Right.
I wouldn't put all of my money in it, obviously, because interest rates are so high right now. You can just open a high interest savings account, get 5% or something. Some are even high as 6.5%. I mean, I'll put my money there all day.
Right.
Like, you're just making hundreds of dollars every month, depending on, how much you have. So
yeah, so it's an interesting move, especially because, like you said, the markup on gold is not that much, whereas Costco, grocery stores, they sort of like, I don't know. I feel like maybe this is a loss leader. So I've talked about this before, but Costco sells like a $5 rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
And it's like in the very back of the store, and there's no way they're making any money on it. So I'm assuming the gold bar, you actually have to go into the store to buy.
I think you can only buy it online.
Oh, you can only buy it online. So maybe this is just an effort to get people to their website, I guess. Be. Yeah. Generate some new customers.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to me because a couple of months ago I was looking at buying some gold, but it was just too expensive. This is actually pretty intriguing. Yeah, you might see me with a Costco gold bar here soon on my desk.
It's really interesting how that is. So it's interesting to see that play out. But you walk. There's not a lot of places you can just randomly buy a gold bar besides like a pawn shop, a particular precious metals dealer. So it is very intriguing that they are going down this path. But I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. The next topic I think we wanted to cover. Well, let's talk about. So we talked about the Orioles. It's Thursday, and we have a looming potential government shutdown. What I haven't really been keeping up too much on it. Is the government going to shut down? Should we even care? We're in the Baltimore, D.C. metro area, and probably every one of us knows dozens of people that work for the federal government that are likely to be furloughed or over the next week. So is it going to happen?
So the overall consensus among experts and the media is that like probably like 90%. Yes, it's going to happen on Sunday. I follow Punchbowl News. They have an inside scoop in DC.
Can you bet on whether it's going to shut down or not?
God,
on
Draft awesome.
on DraftKings?
We should just make our own website and put bets on that. So the problem is that they're trying to push through a continuing resolution bill, and it includes $6 billion in new economic and military aid for Ukraine, plus $6 billion for disaster relief. And this is becoming...
That's for Hawaii, I guess.
Mm-hmm, yeah, obviously a good thing. But the aid to Ukraine is becoming very controversial now.
Of course.
I think it has been for a while. Rand Paul had a speech where he just talked about how, Americans are suffering at home and inflation is so high and this is only going to increase inflation, and we don't have a system in place of a check and balance where we know that money is making it to where it's supposed to go.
Yeah, and it seems like there's basically no end in sight. So
it's a lot of money.
Do we just keep... And I know a lot of that money, so to speak, is not necessarily actual cash. I know it's like old, like missiles, I guess, that we just have lying around. Mm-hmm. And so the defense contractors, I'm sure, are like, yeah, like unload all that new stuff or old stuff, mm-hmm. and then buy our, backfill it with the new stuff, so that the machine in Washington is sort of counting on that. Yeah, we'll unload all our old missiles, and then we're going to need missiles for our defense, so we're going to buy the new shit that's probably like 10 times as more, and then it just keeps circling back around. So I think people are kind of getting wise to that, at least. I'm assuming it's Republicans now that are sort of blocking this, or what's the – is that the main – a piece of wood just fell off in our studio.
Uh-oh.
Don't worry. Don't worry, we're all safe.
It's falling apart.
Is it Republicans that are blocking it mostly?
All right, that's what I am reading. Yeah. And I think a big part of that, the Republicans want more border security money and spending cuts that they've been demanding for a long time, and they just don't want to see this get passed and then all that money just go to another country. So I think that's the rub.
It makes sense. I mean, we know the government is already spending into oblivion. The national debt is what, 30 plus 31, 32 trillion. It's just like a trillion's getting added every month, it seems like. Yeah. So, and interest rates are high. Mm-hmm. So now, not only, that debt service on that is got to be over $1 trillion a year now just in itself. So that's where we're at. So, you follow the Senate and the insider sort of trading. And when we say insider trading, we actually are basically just talking, in terms of politicians, we're basically talking about legal insider trading is what they do. But it's not legal, like they're not supposed to do it, but they just do it. So with this shutdown, is there any like weird activity going on? Like have members of Congress been selling positions? Are they kind of like are they being more careful about that because they don't know? Or do you think they'll try to push the deal through so that like the market doesn't sell off?
Well, I really do think that it's going to shut down on Sunday, and I think that it's just business as usual for them. They're going to play it.
Well, they're still going to get paid, right? Yeah. They're still going to get paid.
Yeah. So, there is legal insider trading, but there is also illegal insider trading where, just recently an ex-senator a former Indiana congressman, Stephen Byer, just got sentenced to 22 months in prison and fined $350,000 because he was in some closed deal meetings regarding T-Mobile and Sprint merging, and he wasn't supposed to tell anybody, but he apparently bought a bunch of stock in his accounts. His friends bought stock, family bought stock, and apparently he made more than $126,000. And then that was in 2018. In 2019, he did it again. Same thing. He was like on a consulting advisory board.
And this was when he was a member of Congress.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But he's since been, what did he get removed?
Yeah, just crazy.
Did he get removed, or he just got voted out, or he lost his?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But, I think they are starting to crack down on this, whether you're in power at the time or
yeah, but that's
after.
like, that's also like, I never even heard of that guy. Right? And it's like 126. That's like what like Pelosi makes in like a day. Like these like big time senators are like they're just too powerful to go after. So, and that actually brings up a good point. Like, are they actually going to? You haven't heard every couple of months they talk about a senator or a congressman wanting to introduce a bill to ban stock trading.
Yep.
Is that part of this debt ceiling discussion at all, or like has that just been they come out and say it and then nothing ever happens to it? They just hope people forget about it.
Yeah, I don't think it's part of this resolution, but yeah, every like 6 months or so you hear it, and
just it just doesn't happen for it.
No, I mean it's for the longest time, it was a perk of being in Congress where you could just make these trades. I mean, that's a huge perk, and they don't want to let that go. But since, with the internet and social media, I mean, they're basically being shamed online, right?
Yeah.
And, they don't have any shame. So
yeah,
you can't.
It doesn't even, they're just, they're like, okay, cool. Like, I'll just ignore it and keep doing what I'm doing.
Because nothing's going to happen.
I mean, well, and half the time it's probably not even them actually doing it. It's whoever works for them, like sort of orchestrating. Half these congressmen, it looks like they don't even know where they are half the time. They're so old.
Oh my God.
All right, let's switch gears because this is an interesting topic that I saw you do a video on earlier, and that's shrooms, mushrooms, I should say.
Brought to you by.
You got some here?
No, it's just mushroom jerky.
Oh, okay.
It's not psychedelic.
These aren't
mushroom.
psychedelic. No, we want to talk about the good stuff here, not the stuff, not portobellos.
We know it's actually crazy. It's one of the most profitable crops that you can grow is oyster mushrooms.
I don't even know what an oyster mushroom is.
It's like the well, I'm doing this. All mushrooms look like that. I think they're just white, like regular mushrooms that you get in the store. But like profitable per like acre. They're just you can.
Yeah, because you can't. They grow really fast. So
you can grow them inside in like a grower. So it's just interesting. But obviously that's not as profitable as I think psychedelic mushrooms. They're really the talk of the town right now.
So what's the deal? Are we gonna Oregon's legalized it? Do we have any particular plays? Is this tracking the same way as marijuana did?
So that's a good point, and I think that you need to look at mushrooms and marijuana in separate categories. We just got legalized in Maryland recreationally, right? You can go to the corner store and buy, an ounce of weed or whatever. But I think that because it is set up that way to be a recreational play, that's going to drop the price and the value of that product.
Right.
So weed is like dirt cheap. It used to be expensive, right? So now that it's trading freely, like in the open market, it is significantly dropped in price.
People can invest into actually growing it at a farm factory scale.
Mm-hmm. And you can grow your own too.
Yeah.
In Maryland, you can have 2 pot plants. So we ideally would never have to buy it.
Right.
Know?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I grow zucchini in my yard, but I also still just go to the store and buy vegetables.
Yeah, that's
too.
True. No, but I think that weed was kind of, it was on track to be like a medicinal play, right? Where everybody said that it has all of these medicinal compounds in it, and I think a lot of that is true.
But it was also kind of like the backdoor way.
Exactly.
Because Maryland medical marijuana has been legal for like 10 years, I think, right? In Maryland. And then they just did. So it's like all these states, some are just skipping and going all out. But some of them, a lot of times, the first thing is medical. And that's like, okay, see, no one, the world didn't end. Let's amp it up now. And also, look at all the tax revenue we can generate from this.
Which is a great thing. I think that's a huge boon to the economy. But mushrooms are being, lauded as a true like medicine.
Right.
It's being tested by a lot of companies right now for PTSD, depression, anxiety, like alcohol use disorder, addictions.
Yeah.
And they're getting really good results. There's a company, MAPS, that just released phase 3 data for, and it's not, so when we talk about mushrooms, we also have to talk about like the psychedelics industry as a whole.
Right.
There's also ketamine and DMT.
Yeah, when you say mushrooms, it's not, and even psychedelic mushrooms.
Psychedelics, yeah.
It's what are the big ones? Psilocybin, I guess.
Is
DMT. Is that? Are those two different?
Those are different. Psilocybin is the active compound in magic mushrooms that kind of breaks that blood-brain barrier and acts quickly on the brain. DMT is kind of that the sleep, or not the sleep, but like, don't they call it like the death?
Right. Yeah, because when you die, like DMT, I guess, is released to like sort of calm you down and as you meet your
that's what they
say. Meet your end. That's what they say. I guess no one's really. I guess there's been I'm sure there's been studies about this. So.
And ketamine, I think, is a tranquilizer.
That's what I always associate that with. So that's got to be on the anxiety end as well. Yeah. So those are the three. Are there any other main ones that they're studying?
I think those are the big ones.
The big ones
that are being actively tested. And I think you said Oregon, and I think Utah may have legalized like psilocybin therapy.
Right.
So you can go, and they have kind of clinics that you can go to if you're really suffering from anxiety and depression. And I think that's positioning it like that instead of like, oh yeah, like let's get high. Like,
right.
No, it's like you go there, they have a testing facility. I think the main way that they do it now is they have you put headphones on, and you have like a sleep mask, and they have you take psilocybin. I think it's probably in tea, some kind of consumable
I was
form.
Gonna say, it's not like they just hand you like a big thing like, here's your mushrooms, like just don't take too many. There's like an actual like dosage in either a drink or I guess at some point the goal would be to just maybe have it in pill form or something.
Yeah, I mean that might be what it is too.
Right.
But it's very encouraging, and especially because, especially with COVID and the whole, I mean it's really ramped up a lot of clinics are just filled with alcoholics. Like alcoholism is really on the
Yeah.
rise.
I mean,
Depression.
yeah, depression, drug, like the mental health
Yeah.
issues are crazy. Depression, um, drug addiction. I mean, like the drug overdoses are just insane. So I know there's a lot of promising data coming out on stopping addiction to
Yep.
these certain things. So it's just not. It's just the same kind of deal that you kind of hear with marijuana when they were trying to kind of push that as is like, oh, this is just like potheads, or hey, like the people that do mushrooms are just like crazy, like
Right.
sort of like 70s like hippies that are just going nuts.
Yeah.
It seems to be that these are clinics that you go into where there's someone like supervising you,
Mm-hmm.
and the early data seems to be pretty promising. So that one company you talked about, is that a public company?
Maps. No, that's I think it's a nonprofit. Um, but they it's good to use them as a barometer like for the industry, because if they are coming out with positive phase 3 data, that's really huge. And there are actually a lot of publicly traded companies. One is Cybin. They've really been on a run recently. The past month, I think they're up over 100%, like 140% or
I'm
something like that.
assuming their focus is psilocybins
Yep,
from the name.
yep. And
And these are considered biotech plays, right? Is that where we are? Like the biotech pharmaceutical industry is that sort of, you talk about phase because they
mhm,
have to go through the FDA
yeah,
process and all that sort of stuff.
yeah, that would be biotech.
Whereas the marijuana stuff sometimes was more like kind of lumped in on like the tobacco end, I
Yep, and like
guess.
agricultural.
Right.
So I think that's why you can't lump them together. And we had a huge run with pot stocks.
I think
What was
that's
that?
what everybody wants to potentially
Yeah, of
mimic,
course.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's when it's compared to pot. I mean, obviously these are, marijuana, pot, mushrooms or whatever. They're kind of on this like, hey, like illicit drugs that people
Mm-hmm.
use recreationally, been around, since the 70s or before then. And so they're kind of lumped in together. But of course, we know what happened with pot stocks in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
We were like super early on that, and it was for a while. I think even people here were like, "Oh, come on," you know what I mean? I think we
Yeah.
were about a year early, and all you need is a couple of the one or two plays, and then the market kind of perks up,
Yep.
and so it's matured since then. So while it's different, it's still, our here is to try to explore some of these ideas,
Yep.
and know what's out there and getting in early. Sometimes, like I said, we're too early, but it's good to watch the space, because as soon as maybe some mergers and acquisitions pick up, or you just hear like, because any of these companies that are public can then be acquired, or some of these private companies can be acquired
Mm-hmm.
or go public. So how many are actually public so far? Because even just like a year or two ago, there was like none.
There's probably about a dozen, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. A lot of them are in Canada, just kind of like
Right.
the pot stocks. But we are seeing consolidation in the space. Cybin, I believe, bought another company called Small Pharma, and they're working on a phase 3 study, which is huge. I mean, if that if that data is encouraging, I mean, that's going to be huge for the market.
Yeah, I mean, these are phase
So,
3 too.
yeah,
These aren't just phase
exactly.
1. Like phase 3 is human trials,
Yeah,
right? Or even phase 2 is human
I think
trials, I
so.
think.
But yeah, phase 3 has to be very more,
Safety and
more
stuff like that.
specific.
And so, what's the main? Are any of these like phase 3s? Are they targeting specific things? Is it PTSD, depression, or are there specific things they're looking to treat?
It's mainly PTSD, but that kind of gets, on the back end of that is depression.
Right.
So you can look at it that way. But for the PTSD, it's like the data is like ridiculously good. Like they're saying that it eliminates it completely, which is like unheard of.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, particularly, and I remember talking to Jeff about this a couple of months ago, and the military aspect of it, and I think they're basically saying, I don't know, we'd have to figure out the exact numbers, but more soldiers basically die from like suicide than doing combat, from when they come back. And so that's sort of a kind of, I mean, it's a well-known fact, but it's sort of one of the things that if that can be fixed, that is, and that's something that, everybody can seemingly get behind. Like you aren't behind, keeping people that fought for our country who come back all fucked up in the head. Like you aren't okay with like giving them this opportunity to live like a normal life. Like it seems like a no-brainer.
Right.
And then of course you extend that out to what that can mean from, the millions of people that are suffering from depression and all this other stuff going on. So, I mean, the market seems pretty huge. And so when you're saying, I mean, this isn't even really like a treatment too. Like it's a treatment, but it's like a limited treatment. So you're saying like they just do it a couple times and then basically, bam, they're cured.
Yeah. They do a high enough dose, and what the data suggests is that it's acting in a way on the brain to kind of rewire some of those neurons that are like, I mean, I don't know exactly,
from the traumatic, because they say like, hey, you have a traumatic event, it's going to sort of be like ingrained in your brain. It's the same reason you sort of remember, like, I remember exactly where I was when I heard about 9/11 and like saw it, you know what I mean? But I can't remember what happened a week past that. But if that's something that I wanted to forget, I could potentially,
Yeah, and I don't think it's about forgetting it though. I think it helps you come to terms with it. It helps. What they're saying is that it helps you produce, new connections, so you can come to terms with traumatic experiences and just, maybe learn from them and kind of accept it.
Right.
And be able to live like a happy life after that. So I think that's something that...
Yeah, I don't see, and it doesn't seem like there's very many downsides to it. I guess there's the idea of like a bad trip, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's some of the hesitation. But I mean, to my knowledge, people aren't really like dying from this. I mean,
yeah, I don't know if you can overdose on it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean they're doing it in a clinical setting. I'm sure people have like done some crazy shit, like just getting high on magic mushrooms.
Yeah.
But
like there might be bacteria or fungus or something, like if you eat it from a field.
Right. But these are clinically done settings with people that are like sort of, I guess the idea too is that you also have some sort of psychotherapy done in conjunction with this. So you're actually talking to a therapist and laying these things out to help. So it's just, I think people just sort of they're in search for a magic pill, right? And that's what they associate with some of this stuff. There's just like, oh, like just give me a pill and I'll just magically, but the complicated sort of diseases and issues like this are not easily solved with just a pill and okay, go to sleep, take. Yeah,
you have to work through it in your brain too when you're on it. From what I was reading and like the testimonials is, you kind of go through it and you were talking about like a bad trip, like sometimes that's what's necessary, and then you push past it, and yeah, you kind of talk to somebody. I think the therapist is in the room, but you're not. They don't actually. They want to limit the interaction while you are on the drug, and then you can talk about it afterwards.
Well, I'm
So,
sold. I want to try some.
all right, let's do it.
So
Here.
this is no, I want the good stuff. So last thing I think we wanted to touch on is I don't even know what you would call these. Do you call them drones? You call them helicopters? You call them what? What? But Cathie Wood is big on them.
Yeah, the eVTOLs, electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles.
See, I don't know if that just doesn't have the.
It doesn't roll off the
Yeah,
tongue.
it's like, oh, I'm gonna take the eVTOL. I'm
Yeah.
gonna take the eVTOL. Okay, yeah, but they're big. And so, what's the latest on that?
Yeah, so, Cathie Wood, who runs the ARK Invest, which is based out of New York, its flagship ETF, which is the ARK Innovation ETF, kind of invests in, disrupting technology.
Crazy moonshot
Like,
type stuff.
yeah, they were big into like the crypto.
Tesla for
a while, yeah. But right now, in their latest quarterly report, they disclosed that they bought 250,000 more shares of an eVTOL company called Archer Aviation, and there's about 4 or 5, maybe more eVTOL companies, but it's really like Joby Aviation and Archer Aviation are the two competing.
And I think
companies.
Archer, you played in your premium newsletter, Insider Stakeout. I mean, what was that? Like 100 and what was the gain you got on that?
Well, we played it. We kind of like we're swing trading it.
Right. Okay.
So I think it's near 100% cumulative what we've made on it, but yeah, each time it's kind of popped, and sometimes I'll get a little antsy and want to sell. So
hey man, there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with taking gains off the table. I think a lot of our readers do that.
Yeah,
too.
I think so.
It's interesting the psychology of making these large gains in a short period of time, because you're talking about. I mean, how many times did you trade it in the span of like 6 months? I
think it was 3.
3 in 6 months.
Yeah.
So
and each time it was like 40% gain.
Right. So yeah, and that's way different than investing in a stock and sitting on it for 6 years and making 40%, which is still like that's about average or what you would get. But I mean, 40% gains 3 times in 6 months. That's pretty good. That's almost as good as betting on the Orioles to win the World Series.
But yeah, so she owns 10%. I mean, you can look at it like kind of an air taxi. They're going to be shuttling people to and from different areas, like around the airport, to kind of cut down on traffic. But I really think that this is more of a futuristic play too. I think people are really seeing this as like the future of, small city air travel. I mean, you can land these. You've seen them, but the military kind of has these already, where the wing will come up like a helicopter in order to take off and land, and then it'll tilt forward and it acts as a propulsion system, and so it's a plane. But these are electric, so I think that's the
and they're not.
kicker.
They still have a pilot, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're not drones. I mean, maybe in the...
Yeah, I guess the idea of a drone is that there is no pilot. It's like kind of remote controlled.
Yeah.
So there's a pilot in there. I'm assuming now, like these are they already operating it?
Yeah, they're testing them. They're set to hit, I think, the Chicago airport next year.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's only a few months away. So
right.
We're going to be seeing them in the skies. And when you see them, you're going to be like, oh, I heard about that.
Yeah.
Should have bought it.
Yeah, and I'm assuming these are fairly expensive rides probably to start.
Yeah.
But it starts out with like, hey, VIPs or whatever are going to do them, and then as it scales out, the cost goes down, and then everybody's going to be potentially using these.
Yeah, and I think it'll probably just end up being like an addition, like when you buy your plane ticket, just be like, do you want to
An
add
add-on.
this? Yeah.
Yeah. And is the idea that they would like come pick you up at your house, or like there's basically like if you're in a big city, there's like a rooftop like landing spot, I guess.
Yeah, probably they'll probably build out like some infrastructure. It'd be like a bus stop, where you're just waiting there for it, and,
right?
And it comes and takes you. So, yeah, that'll hit next year. And if it doesn't hit next year, it will, that won't be a positive. But they're really trying to get it up and running next year. So
right. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that, and maybe we'll check in, and you can declare victory or defeat. But hey, it's a moonshot play, and so we invite people to check it out. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's what we like.
All right. I think that's good for today's episode. I appreciate your time, Alex. Yeah. Be sure to check out Alex's premium newsletter where, he swing trade this 3 stock for 40% gains each time. And there's some other cool plays in there where he's, tracking congressional trades and seeing what these douchebags in Congress are up to. So,
check out the link in the description below. Should be there. And, check me out there. Thanks
all right.
a lot.
Like, comment, subscribe. Adios.